Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're zeroing in on Interactive Brokers Group. Their Q3 2025 earnings are coming up, and there's quite a bit to unpack.
Yeah, our goal here is really to synthesize everything that's out there, the recent operational stats, what analysts are thinking, and some pretty significant external factors, too. We want to give you a clear view before that report drops on Thursday, October 16th. And hey, before we dive in, if you find this useful, please do subscribe, maybe give us a like and drop a comment. Especially let us know if there's a company you'd like us to look into next time. Okay, so let's kick things off with their recent performance. The period from July to September 2025. The word seems to be robust, right? Sounds like they had a really strong summer.
Oh, robust might even be putting it mildly. I mean, if you just look at the September metrics, which fall right into this Q3 period, we saw some record-breaking activity there. Daily average revenue trade starts, that's the big one for volume, they just exploded, hit 3.864 million.
Yeah, that's a 47% jump compared to last year. 47%. That points to really high client engagement, probably driven by market volatility too.
And I assume that volume carried over into assets.
Absolutely. Client equity climbed to $757.5 billion. That's up 40% year over year.
Huge numbers.
And it's not just assets under management. Margin loans were up 39% to $77.3 billion. And client credit balances, so cash they hold, up 33% to $154.8 billion. It looks like clients, especially maybe the bigger ones, are really concentrating assets and borrowing power there.
Okay, that all sounds incredibly positive. Almost too positive. But I remember seeing something about, wasn't there a significant account outflow issue in September that kind of muddied the waters a bit?
Yes, that's let's call it the critical counterpoint everyone's watching.
Right.
There was a specific event, a large withdrawal linked to a Q2 subsidiary. We're talking about 38.8 thousand accounts and around $413.5 million in assets walking out the door in one go.
Oof. Okay, so that's not insignificant.
Not at all. Now, overall, they still reported net growth for the period, about 111.9 thousand accounts added on balance. But the key question for the Q3 report is going to be, how strong was the organic growth? Did they bring in enough new clients to completely offset that big Q2 departure and still show healthy underlying expansion? That net new account figure will be under a microscope.
Gotcha. So while managing that, they were also pushing out new platform features. I saw the IBKR desktop launch in July and some buzz about advisors liking their AI tools.
Exactly. Those aren't just random updates, they're strategic. The new desktop platform targets their more sophisticated active traders. And the positive data on AI adoption among advisors, that reinforces their appeal to, the higher value institutional and advisory segments.
Which helps cushion any potential retail churn, maybe.
Precisely. Attracting those larger accounts with advanced tools is key to their model.
Okay, so that sets the stage on operations strong, but with that one question mark on net accounts. Let's pivot now to the main event, the Q3 earnings report itself. What are the exact expectations?
All right. The report is due Thursday, October 16th, 2025, right after the market closes, around 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And yes, consensus estimates are definitely reflecting that strong activity we talked about. The street's looking for revenue around $1.2 billion. That would be roughly 13% growth year over year.
And the bottom line, earnings per share.
The consensus for EPS is $1.52. That's up from $1.38 in the same quarter last year, so decent growth expected there too.
Now, I always find the whisper number interesting, that sort of unofficial expectation that sometimes drives the real reaction. Any sense of that?
Yeah, the whisper number floating around seems to be about $1.55 for EPS.
Okay, so a few cents higher than consensus.
Exactly. And if they manage to hit, or even better, beat that $1.55, that could really fuel a positive stock reaction. The market's already priced in a good quarter, so they likely need that little extra oomph to really move the needle higher.
Makes sense. And speaking of expectations, Interactive Brokers has a history here, right? They've beaten estimates pretty consistently.
They have. Actually, for the last 4 quarters straight, they've surprised positively on both EPS and revenue. In Q2, for instance, they beat EPS estimates by almost 3% and revenue by about 2.7%.
So does that consistent beat record almost become a liability? Like, does the market just expect them to beat now, setting the bar impossibly high?
That's a really good point. It absolutely raises the pressure. When you build up a winning streak like that, just meeting expectations can sometimes feel like a disappointment to the market.
Right, a beat becomes the baseline.
Pretty much. Analysts might even be building that expectation into their models, being a bit conservative, knowing the company tends to find a way to over-deliver. So yeah, if they only hit that $1.52 consensus, you could potentially see the stock wobble just because investors have been conditioned to expect more.
And if they do beat, what's the typical reaction been in the past, say, the day after earnings?
Historically, the reaction's been positive. The stock actually moved higher the day after the last three reports. After Q2's results, for example, it popped about 2.2% the next trading day. So there's evidence investors are willing to reward them pretty quickly for good news.
Okay, interesting. Now let's broaden the view a bit, because the Interactive Broker story right now isn't just about these Q3 numbers. There's a big external factor at play, isn't there? Something about an S&P index change.
Yes, this is a really crucial piece of context, especially for short-term trading dynamics. Back in August, Interactive Brokers was actually removed from the S&P Mid-Cap 400 index.
Removed? Why was that? Performance related.
No, not about their business performance itself. It's more of a mechanical index construction thing, but the consequence is what matters.
Which is?
Well, every single passive ETF, every index fund that tracks the S&P Mid-Cap 400 is basically mandated to sell their shares of Interactive Brokers.
Forced selling,
Uh,
regardless of the earnings outcome.
Exactly. It creates this automatic selling pressure. And the key date to watch for the settlement of these flows is October 29th, 2025.
So that's after the earnings report on the 16th.
Right. Which means even if they report fantastic earnings, you've got this pre-scheduled wave of institutional selling coming just about, 2 weeks later? That could definitely put a ceiling on any post-earnings rally or at least add some volatility.
That is a huge factor to keep in mind.
Okay.
But on the flip side, they are still rolling out new products, trying to build that long-term case. Yeah.
They are. Just this October, they launched a new tax planner tool within their portfolio analyst platform that's aimed squarely at advisors and wealthier clients, makes the platform stickier.
Smart.
And they also introduced a Swedish ISK account, which is a tax-advantaged account specific to Sweden. It shows they're continuing that push for localized, tax-efficient offerings, especially targeting growth markets in Europe. It's about building that diverse long-term revenue stream.
Okay, good context. So bringing it back to the earnings call itself, what are the absolute key metrics? The two things management really highlights and that the market will probably react most strongly to.
Two main things usually stand out. First is net interest income, or NII.
Right, the profit from client cash balances.
Exactly. With rates higher and stable and those huge client balances we mentioned, this has become a massive profit driver. It was up 18% year over year in Q2, their biggest source of margin. So the market will want to see that NII growth continue, assuming rates held steady and balances grew in Q3.
Makes sense. And the second key metric?
It has to be net new account growth. Going back to that Q2 outflow issue.
Right.
This is the number that tells us if their underlying growth engine is still firing on all cylinders. They need to show strong organic growth here to convince the market that the Q2 thing was a one-off and that the future revenue base is expanding healthily. A disappointment here could really hurt sentiment.
Okay, NII and net new accounts. Got it. So looking at the market right now, how is it pricing this event? What's the expected volatility? It feels like expectations are high.
They are. If you look at the stock's implied volatility, or 4, it's pretty elevated. It's currently in the 81st percentile compared to its own history over the past year.
Meaning options are expensive?
Yes. Options traders are essentially betting on or hedging against a significant price swing around earnings. They expect movement.
How much movement? Can we quantify that?
We can get a rough idea from the options market using what's called the at-the-money straddle price for the expiration week that includes the earnings date, October 18th. The market is implying an expected move of roughly plus or minus 5.8% for the stock that week.
Okay, nearly 6% other way. That's a pretty decent swing.
It is. It tells you the market is braced for a reaction, not just a flat line.
So with that expected move, what's the sort of base case versus maybe a bull case scenario based on everything we've discussed? What are the probabilities looking like?
Well, looking at the overall picture, the base case seems most likely maybe around a 60% probability. That would be an earnings result that's broadly in line with expectations, maybe a small beat. In that scenario, you'd probably see the stock move within that implied 5-6% range.
Okay. And the bull case? What gets us a bigger jump, say, plus 7% to plus 10%?
For that, you'd likely need a significant positive surprise in one of those two key metrics we highlighted. Either net interest income comes in way ahead of expectations, perhaps if client balances grew even faster than thought, Or
Well, the net new accounts number just blows away concerns about that future outflow.
exactly, really strong organic growth that makes that outflow look like a non-issue. That could certainly spark a bigger rally.
All right, so pulling it all together. Strong recent performance, high expectations, a history of beats, but also that looming S&P selling pressure and elevated volatility. What's the overall read here?
I'd say the setup looks neutral to cautiously bullish. The underlying operational growth is undeniably strong, and analyst sentiment keeps ticking up. But that elevated IV and, importantly, the mandated selling flow later in October mean you have to temper the enthusiasm a bit. Caution seems warranted, even with a potentially good report.
It sounds like the fundamentals are solid, but the market needs more than just solid. It needs that clear beat on NII or net new accounts, especially with the technical headwinds. Okay, great breakdown. So let's leave our listeners with a final thought, maybe looking beyond just this Q3 report. We touched on AI tools for advisors and the European expansion.
Right.
What if, on the earnings call, management gives more color on those future growth drivers? Say they hint at a much deeper AI integration coming soon, or maybe signal a really aggressive expansion plan, perhaps in Asia, or pushing harder in Europe. How might those kinds of forward-looking statements, even if just hints, change the longer-term narrative for Interactive brokers beyond the immediate earnings reaction? Something to definitely keep an ear out for during the call.